Hello and a very warm welcome to our seminar on staff retention for retailers and where is it going wrong. Today our purpose is really to help HR directors and anybody working in talent development to create a compelling business case to invest in the right initiatives to turn around the high incidence of staff turnover within the sector. My name is Peter Sparrow. I work for Inoapps, which is Oracle's leading partner for the implementation of cloud applications. And I'm joined today by my friends from Oracle, Thierry Bilger. Thierry, do you want to say hello?
Good afternoon.
And Peter Rowley, who's going to cover the solution overview for the Oracle application. So if you want to say hello, Peter.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Peter, and he will take us through the applications itself. We're going to be looking at Oracle's advanced analytical software, really to delve into understanding your employee base and looking at the risk of staff that might be wanting to leave, as well as those that you can single out for staff development programs. Okay, so talking about where staff retention is going wrong, if we look at some data, and this is developed from the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development survey. So they do this survey every year. It goes out to all the HR directors across many different sectors. There is a bit of a good news, bad news story here. So in recent years, staff turnover has been decreasing, probably half its rates from 2005. Some of that really is attributable to the poor state of the economy, as you can expect. You know, during a recession, there are fewer jobs available, people stay in their jobs for longer, and there aren't those sort of opportunities to move around. So that has been changing since about 2013, 14 and 15. We're starting to see an increase for the worse, really, of staff turnover increasing across industries. And in 2014, 15, it was 13.6. Now that's only half the story. That is an average figure across all sectors. If we look at retail, what's more typical is sort of 25%, so a quarter of your staff leaving the door. I was talking to HR director only last week, and they're really struggling with the 40% staff turnover in their organisation. And that's a huge burden if you're looking at recruiting and onboarding 40% of your workforce every year. And that's for them standing still. That's not them growing. They've got to grow as well. So they're really, finding that quite a strain. The other thing is you can see within retail that it's been hitting headlines, and perhaps for the wrong reasons. Sports Direct has certainly hit the headlines for some of its work practices in recent months, and it can't be a very good experience for the chairman to be hauled in front of a UK Parliamentary Select Committee and really drilled and asked questions about what is happening in what is seen as a very successful growing business, but maybe putting too much squeeze on its staff. They were termed really sort of Victorian working practices that are going on. They have listened. They've had a lot of pressure from their investors to sort things out. The chairman has stepped in and has recently announced a complete review of the HR practices. And they have decided to ditch the zero-hour contracts and looking to really mend their image and their reputation with their staff. They are not alone by any means. I mean, we've recently seen ASOS also come under similar scrutiny, and that was very much about the accusation about unpaid overtime that's built into those sort of flexible contracts that they have within their logistics and warehouse. So hitting the headlines, and this couldn't happen at a worse time really for retail, because there has been for many years this sort of battle royal between what is happening in the high street and what is happening online. So we've seen this with the high street retail try and improve customer service and really get their value proposition right as they are battling the e-retailers, the big e-commerce giants, coming in with the discounted prices online and also the convenience of shopping online. This sort of pressure that's going on, we can see that's changing as we look forward, because only recently this year Amazon.com, the doyen of the e-retailers, has opened its first physical store. It's a bit like a format of the Apple Store. It's aping that kind of format, but they have seen the need to have physical retail presence in the high street. and equally more traditional, hate to use that word, but the well-established department stores like John Lewis, they've really put a huge investment in their online branding, their e-commerce and their logistical fulfillment systems. So we're seeing on-street merging to online and vice versa. And I was only in Glasgow a couple of weeks ago and I saw this store, Ted Baker store, and they have in their main window there this phrase, "Look for stitches in his breeches." It's a very interesting innovation because they're sort of capturing, if you like, the Pokemon Go type generation. If you put that phrase into the Ted Baker app while you're standing outside the store, you will get very customed rewards and discounts when you go in store. So again, very innovation that's going on in this moment.
It's clear what is important in this new world is that the customer experience can be joined up both from online to in-store, and that really depends on having the right experienced staff in those stores to do it. Hence it's really important to support those staff with the right training and development programs.
Perhaps our third reason, if you're not convinced already about do something about these high staff turnover where you're losing staff every 3 to 6 months, comes from a survey which was by PH Branding Agency. And this study showed that there's a real connection for many retailers between who they employ and who they want to sell to. So quite often the people coming through for a recruitment process are also your customers. And this was illustrated very nicely by Virgin Media. They had the suspicion this was the case and they decided to track it. So in 2014 there was 130,000 candidates applied to work for Virgin Media. And they checked obviously those records, they could look them up, and there was 18% of those were existing customers. Through the candidate experience they had outsourced their recruitment, and 7,500 of those candidates had a poor experience through that, didn't want to do with Virgin Media ever again, and in fact switched to the competition. So I don't think that's a unique story. I mean, it cost them 4.4 million in lost sales very quickly. Now, they have fixed that situation. They've put a lot more effort into bringing that process inside and managing it in a sort of equitable way. Many of our retail customers, recruiting in a pool of 16 to 24-year-olds is quite a common demographic they're looking at. And 75% of those respondents that are there are often those customers as well. So it may be the same with yourself. So there are very good reasons to have a look again, but what we want to help you with is really you've got to make the case to a chief executive, to retail directors, to put money into this. And what often is happening, we're finding, is the HR director doesn't have the data to make a compelling business case because it has to come down to hard savings on the bottom line. And the problem here is quite often they're only able to measure what's very easy to measure, and that's the logistical costs of recruitment. So if we imagine somebody coming into your organization, if they only stay 3 to 6 months and then they leave, you've had the training costs that are wasted, you've wasted money on recruitment costs, advertising agency, the assessment center, the interviewing, and there's a bit of onboarding and administration costs involved in that. And when you say goodbye and you do the exit interview, that obviously costs time and money. And there is also, while they're either looking for a new job or have left, there is that vacant position and staff have to step up to fill that vacancy. Typically we find that's around 8 grand of costs, the direct costs, over and above any staff salaries. That's only half the story, as I say, because the rest of it is really the opportunity that has been missed. So if that person has come in and they've been there 3 to 6 months, what they have lost is the opportunity to climb up the learning curve that we need to deal with demanding customers, the learning curve that we need for you to deal with the public, understand their needs, look at back office systems, for instance, to make sure that if we've got it in another store, we can do a click and collect for you. We know how to use those systems effectively, and whether in the call center or in the store. So you can see that more experienced staff, if they're there for sort of a year, 2 years, there is an extra sales that we've found through improved customer service, the ability to upsell to the customer, and really creating that experience that they want to come back and repeat sales from you. So that's a much bigger pie, and this is really, we're only comparing the short-termer, if you like, to the average sales assistant. So that's about a lost sales of £88,000 per year because you haven't been able to keep more experienced staff. If you're only making 10% net profit on that, that's a £9,000 cost to the bottom line. So that's a much more rounded picture. We're not talking very expensive staff. These are typically around £11,000 a year, and as I say, this is in addition to what you've paid them. These are the logistics and the productivity costs, and so you can see in all, you know, £30,000 wasted money is going down the drain every time you lose one of these employees.
So we've focused on the
front line, if you like, the shop assistant, the call centre staff, anybody working on customer service, whether that's in the supply chain or directly with the customer. Now, the other side that we want to really highlight is the management development and the cost of getting management development wrong for your store managers. Now, if we look at this slightly fictional sports retailer that we might have mentioned, they are a very large organisation, 135 stores in the UK, and there's a sort of 80-20 rule that happens here, that 80% of their revenue comes from the top 20% of their stores. So in this case, it's roughly about 24 stores is driving most of the revenue from the group. If you put the wrong manager in one of those stores and they create a sort of toxic working culture or lack of motivation, that's going to affect the whole staff, and it's going to affect how that store performs. So from a big store, you could be losing a productivity loss of £54 million a year from those big stores. At the tail end, it's a very different story. It's a much smaller impact of the wrong manager. So this tells us something about not treating all people equally across your real estate. You want your more experienced managers at the top end, but you want to be able to onboard them and get experience through the smaller stores and a variety of different experiences. So understanding your population of employees and segmenting them and understanding their career goals and their capabilities is a really important thing for improving productivity. So that's all very well. Hopefully we've given you some really good cost drivers there, but nobody's going to sign off just a blank check to you. So what are the true initiatives that you can look at to make sure that you're going to do the right things? Now this is quite difficult. If you look at the CIPD survey, there's probably about 16 different initiatives that they measure that HR directors are using to drive down staff turnover. And out of those 16 initiatives, how do you know what really works and what doesn't? So I'm going to ask this over to the audience now. So this is your turn to be interactive with me. We've got two choices here. We've got option A, option B. And what they show is 6 initiatives to reduce staff turnover. And I would like you to tell me what you feel is the most successful. We'll just wait a little minute for the results. If you can't decide by the two, then please just choose C. So we should have a poll that's coming up. All right, if you stop voting now, as they all say in all the very best game shows, otherwise your votes won't be counted. The results we've got here are showing that it's even. Some of you have said to choose C, some B. A's quite favourite. So let's just boil this down. So with option A, they're all very good initiatives, but you see the problem here is that the most popular one there, improved pay, also appears in B. So the real answer here is A is the most popular choices that are used within the survey, and B is in fact the list of the ones that HR directors most often use and most often fail, or find they don't work. So this is where we see the dichotomy here, is that improving pay is very popular, but it's also the one that's most likely to fail. And you'll also see that improving line managers' people skills, which seems a very sensible thing to do, is also one of the hardest ones to get right, as it appears in both groups. So true answer might be actually to choose C, because you can't decide. What you need is some feedback, some data to really guide your choice. And two popular areas that HR directors always go to is, one is the annual employee survey, and the other one is also to have a look at exit interview data. The problem with exit interview data is, as we know, most people lie. They lie on that because they want to get out of the organization without any hassle, so they probably will say, it's not you, big store, it's me, I've decided not to be in retail anymore. And then you find them only a few months later working in a shop just down the high street from you. So yeah, exit interviews are prone to problems with them, as are in fact the annual staff survey, because quite often they do sort of even out the results. People are slightly suspicious because it's coming from head office, it's coming from the HR department. They're sometimes suspicious about what the data is going to be used, so they may not be forthright in their views. An area where employees, ex and current, quite often forthright is Glassdoor. So I guess a number of you may use this already, and here we're again looking at this sports retailer and look at weighing up the pros and cons, see if that gives us any clues to look at. So the pros very much are they actually are providing a very good first job for young staff, and they like the sort of great mates type of culture. The flexibility is actually very good for students, and it's a great place to get their first job experience, is the kind of things that you see on Glassdoor, and there is an opportunity to earn a bit of extra money through commission. However, when you look at the downside and the cons, there's something about the work environment. It's not a very great work environment, and there's, why should they pay for the uniforms? There's things like that. But really, in the nest of all of this, there is a real whole load of issues around trust between management and staff, and there are some complaints. They may be isolated around bullying type conditions and the use of hours and things. So there's something. It may be isolated. You can't, without data behind this, you don't know how representative it is, but there are some clues there to look at. And then if you look at the gaps that on this fictitious sports retailer, then the gaps would be there are staff wanting a longer career there. They don't want to leave necessarily. They're looking for opportunities to advance and be valued in what they're doing, and they need guidance and support. So you might think there is something around this management development and team working to look at. But again, without some hard data, it would only be a guess. So what we're advocating here, and what you'll see through the solution overview that Peter will show you very shortly, is around reducing the staff. Our recommendation to reduce staff turnover is do it in a systematic way. It's first of all, we have produced a calculator that you can, we'll send you information about, so you can put your data in there, you can work out the cost of staff turnover for your organization, and we can help you with that report sort of build up a business case to change the game, if you like. That's the start of it. The next bit is really to understand and segment your staff around understanding who are the high-performing employees ready for promotion. What's their gaps in their skills that you need for them to step up to those other jobs? Quite often it's very hard to know what opportunities are available. So if you've only worked in one store but you might want to relocate to another part of the country, does your staff have that ability to look across there? And you're very good high performers. If you're moving them on, you want to also move other people up, and have you got a succession plan in place? And then the other flip side of the coin is make sure that you understand through the predictive analytics that we're going to show you who are at a very high risk of leaving, and put a development strategy around their learning and development to retain them as well. Beyond all of this is what we think is the new world of cloud applications. Is very much you can pilot this, you can start with a small group, a small cohort. You may put in learning management for a particular management stream, and then you can scale and build, and you can measure what's working and use those sort of best practices. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is we're going to change over presenter to Peter Rowley, and he is going to take you through the solution overview of HCM Workforce Analytics. Over to you, Peter.
Good afternoon, everybody. Quick intro from myself and Thierry. My name is Peter Rowley. I have been working in the HR industry for quite a long time now at this stage, in the roles of head of HR, head of compensation, head of reward in various industries before I joined Oracle. So this afternoon what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about between 10 and 15 minutes to do a very quick run through on our solution of the Oracle HCM Cloud. So video for that. All right. Okay, before I go into the details of this, it's very important for me, just from a compliance perspective, to put up what we call our safe harbor statement. And in essence, I'm not going to read out what this says. All I'm going to say is that, the safe harbor statement, the overall purpose of it is to make sure that people do not enter into a contract based on what we have said in a webinar like this. All right, now, so I'm straight into the application right now at this stage. And so we're into this is where the rubber hits the road effectively. So what I have here is a landing page, and this is a landing page that any of your users could get within an organization. But in this case, I'm looking at it from the perspective of a CHRO. And this particular individual, because he is a CHRO, wants to have a view on a number of things. They want to be able to look at the world from my workforce, or it could be that my team, or about me, if I want to go off and book my holidays or view my pay slips. But in essence, over the next 10-15 minutes, what I'm going to be talking about is how we will look at my workforce and about my team, and it could be a promotion within a team or transactions within my team. So what do I get with this then? On the left-hand side here, what we have is it's effectively our collaboration tool, our Oracle Social Network, and it allows you as an organization to drive an awful lot of your communications in a context-driven fashion through this, and lessen significantly your reliance on email as a tool for communicating in the organization. We find this a really, really useful tool, and so do a lot of our clients at this stage as well. The next thing is up here we've got notifications, same as on your phone. So these notifications are a push rather than you having to go in and pull that information. So it's pushing information to you and to your employees about things that they haven't got to do. So, somebody sent a new appraisal document, somebody has requested holidays, you're getting push notifications on those, and you can action those instantly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move very quickly into what we call our infolets area. And in essence, the infolets are how you as an organization are able to keep your finger on the pulse and have all of the essential information that you as a professional need within the business. So in this particular case, this is being configured for a CHRO. So in this case, things like workforce stability and going back to what Peter's been talking about is a critical thing or measure that this head of HR needs. Next thing, things like sickness and absence. We all know that this is quite a challenge within the retail sector. My succession plans. These are entirely configurable to me and to my world. My CFO may have a very different configurable dashboard. My CEO may have a different one. My head of buying, they may have a very, very different one as well. But the thing about it is that this is configurable and it's real time and it allows me to drill down and get to the information behind all of these, which is effectively what I'm going to do now. So what I'm going to do is show you, let's say if I was a CHRO and I wanted to have a drill down into my headcount data. So from here then what I'm able to do is get very visual representation of how we're doing in terms of our headcount. Things that are clearly very important that I want flagged up immediately is kind of like those people in the business that are a high risk of leaving within the business. I need to know that on a daily basis. It could be on an hourly basis, such that we as an organization can action based on that. So again, it's very intuitive and very simple to the consumer because people respond much better to visual data than they do to kind of like Excel sheets with old out-of-date information. Okay, so again, let's assume that I wanted to drill down and I want to look at levers by reason. Again, I can drill down and I can pull this information in real time, anytime I want it. The other great thing about it is that let's say my CEO wants a report on their desk on every Monday, the first Monday of every month. with this level of detail, what I can do is I can have this is pre-scheduled, pre-packed briefing document sent to them so that it's on their desk with real-time information at a prescribed time and or to my prescribed audience. Next, what I want to do is, let's assume now what I'm doing is I'm looking at the information. I'm drilling down a layer, and what I'm doing is I'm looking at it from the perspective of a manager. This could be a store manager, and what you want to do is again give them a dashboard which gives them actionable insight into how they're running their business as well. So, you know, clearly here, all they see based on their role-based access and security level is they can see their headcount, but they also can see kind of like the people that are at risk within their organization. What's the total cost of running my store or my region? So they've got all of that actionable insight. And, you know, it's very, very easy to build reports to actually get this information once I've got access to that information within the solution. Okay, just back onto my infolettes now at a high level, because one of the things that I, as a CHRO, am kind of also interested in is sickness and absence. And as I said, this is quite a challenge within the retail sector. So this could be something that's configured, an absence dashboard. It could be at a level within the organization, or it could be drilled right down whereby your managers and your supervisors and your store managers have access to this. So what they're able to do is they're able to get kind of like, what are the days that are causing this a problem within the business? You know, is it a Monday, Fridays type issue? Who are the people with the biggest absence? So again, what I have is I've got actionable insight, and I, as a manager, as a supervisor, can take decisions fairly quickly based upon having that real-time information there at hand. Okay, so back out to my back onto my landing page now at this stage, because now what I want to do is I want to take it down a level. I've been looking at kind of like my workforce, and I've been looking at it from a reporting standpoint. Now what I want to do is I want to drill in. Let's assume that I've taken over a new team and I want to understand them a little bit more. And also what's happened is that we want to open up a new store, and I'm looking for a talent that might be the right person for that. So I drill on my team this time. And here what I have is I've got a full layer of information around this about, you know, if I want hiring, my recruiting, my team compensation, my team talent. But in this case, what I want to do is I just simply want to go in and I want to look at my team. So get some more insight on them. So what I have here is I've got the information which is being made available to me at a very high level and very intuitive. You don't get a cluttered screen with a lot of information. And from here what I can do is I can take actions based on this, and that would then deliver me all of the kind of like actions that I can take as an individual manager. Or I can flick them over and I can get more detail behind all of these. However, in this case, what I want to do is, as I said, I'm looking for somebody kind of like to take over a new region or to manage a new region. So one of the things that I tend, or what we find is a lot of our clients tend to like using is our predictive analytics. Because the predictive analytics, which was developed by PwC and Saratoga Institute, allows organizations to, instead of just looking at historical information, now what they're doing is they're getting a bit of crystal ball gazing. Effectively, predictive analytics allows them to take anything up to, it could be 140 factors or variables on each of those individuals, and measure each of those individuals to develop a propensity score for them to stay in the organization and to perform in the organization. So just think about how powerful that is to be able to sit down with your other C-suite people within the business, and instead of just looking at how our turnover has been over the last 2 years, you know what? Here's an indicator of what our turnover is and where those high levels of turnover are particularly high within the business, and allowing us to build strategies around those indicators. Okay, so based on that, what I want to do is I want to be able to take some action. So with this particular individual, Brian, I want to drill down. I want to get some more insight before we start having those conversations about assigning him into this new role. So from here, what I can do is I have full insight in terms of his competencies within the business, and things like his goals, his performance, his succession planning, his compensation. I can drill down, get each of those, you know, and within a couple of, we're talking about 4 or 5 clicks, I've got all of that information at my fingertips on this particular individual. Okay, next thing that I want to look at is his succession plan, because clearly what we need to be able to do is, if, you know, we're talking about turnover being a big issue, but, you know, one of the defenses mechanisms that you do have as a business is having strong succession planning. So as people move in the business, that, okay, we've got a plan as to how to replace them. So in this case here, we have a succession plan for this particular individual, Brian, and it's showing that I've got 8 candidates who are ready. Now clearly some of those will be at different states of readiness, and I have here some kind of like the people in green. They're people who are ready to move within the next 1 to 2 years. You know, I may not be so interested in people who are kind of like 3 to 4 years out, but it's great knowing that I've got a bench strength to be able to replace that individual, you know, anytime from between now to up to 3 to 4 years time. And I can see here that, you know, the impact of this role, if this individual leaves, is high, the risk of them leaving is high. So, you know, I think we should seriously consider promoting or assigning this person into a role which is more interesting and more challenging for them. Okay, getting towards the latter part, clearly you're doing the timing, I think. Oh, have you? All right. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to just address very briefly learning, because I know within kind of like clients like Debenhams and Tesco's and these kind of companies and Sainsbury's, learning is a really important aspect of their business, because you do tend to have kind of like a lot of people moving through the business. So they're having the ability to, for these people to kind of like gather skills and the competencies very, very quickly is very, very important to the business. So we've got a number of options when it comes to learning solutions, but the one that we're really, what shall I say, pushing an awful lot of investment into now is our social-based learning tools. And again, this is all fully integrated into the overall Oracle HCM Cloud. But this works on the basis of kind of like allowing people to take knowledge that they've acquired. It could be on YouTube, or it could be on some of these places like iVersities. Share that knowledge. They can build their own videos and share that as well, author tutorial in things like SCORM and all those as well. But what this does is it also pushes learning to me. So I can see here what's my required learning, what are the personal learning. And then what it also does is, based upon my career preferences, it also pushes things to me that, you know, may be shared by my mentors within the business, or people that I'm following within the business, or people that, you know, careers that I'm particularly interested in. So again, it's pushing that learning and not just working on the basis of kind of like somebody going in and searching for a skill. So let's have a drill down and have a look at my own team's learning. And with that, what I can do is I can see that I've unfortunately got a little bit of red and some orange as well. So this shows me that as a manager, kind of like some of my team are falling behind in terms of their learning goals. So probably what I should do is get onto my or social network or collaboration tools, send them out a reminder and say, guys, we need an update as to where we're at when it comes to your learning goals and why we're falling behind. Is there anything we can do to address it? Okay, moving off learning, I'm now at the latter aspect of it, and I think I'm within time, correct? And now what I want to do is I want to address, I'm going to move up. So we're now moving back up the organization. We're flying at, you know, 30,000 feet again. So I'm looking at this now from the perspective of what we call talent review. And in talent review, what this enables me as an organization to do, and particularly as a senior manager within the business, it allows me to architect the organization. So to find where talent is sitting within the organization, here what we have is we've got a 9-box grid. And we find that our clients really love this, because what it allows them to do is to kind of like, you know, visualize where their talent is in the business, and then for them to make decisions based on that. So who are my top talent? Who are my adoptable talent? You know, we're opening up new stores, we're opening up new regions. So these might be the people that we tap into. And then what we can do is we can, you know, take these people and we can simply drag and drop and bring them into our succession plans over here, or we can bring them into our talent pools of emerging leaders. So we have all of that ability as well. But, you know, on this particular occasion, what I want to do is I want to find out a little bit more about somebody in particular. So now what I'm able to do, because all of this is fully integrated into the overall Oracle HCM Cloud, I have, you know, this visual then comes up here on this particular individual. Olivia is somebody that, you know, she is clearly highlighted as a talent within the business. So, you know, if I'm kind of like CHRO, I may not know all of my top talent in the business because some of them may be situated in, you know, very far off regions in terms of the stores and that. So here, what I can do is, again, with a couple of clicks, I can find out everything that I need to know about Olivia in terms of, you know, her knowledge, skills, and experience. You know, what succession plan? Is there a succession plan for her? Is she included in the succession plan herself? And her performance, her goals, and, you know, most importantly as well, compensation as well. So now what I have is, again, I have that great layer and levels of insight, which enables me to, you know, to have a really solid basis to my decision-making process within the business. Finally, what I want to do is I want to kind of like do a bit of a look back as well. And what I want to do is have a quick look at talent review. But now what I'm doing is I'm winding back. And this effectively allows me to rewind and see where people have moved from and where they've moved to. So what this allows me to do as a CHRO is to see that our investments in talent management, that our investments in mentoring, that are in mentoring, that are investments in terms of kind of like those assignments that we may put people on, are they working in terms of developing future leaders in the organization? So we can see here an example of somebody who's moved from being a solid talent all the way up to being a top talent within the organization within the space of a year. Why? And, you know, that's the great thing about it, is it allows you to learn from that and the successes of how people are doing. Okay, by the way, on that point, you know, some of you may not use non-box grids. I was in one of our pharmaceutical clients recently and they said, we really love this, but can you do a 16-box grid? And I said, of course we can do that. So that's no problem. And, you know, that is entirely configurable to your Word. So if you're using a 27-box grid, that's no problem either. Okay, so I think that's me wrapping up at this stage. And Peter, I think I'm pretty much on time. And so for myself and Thierry, I'm going to hand back over to you. Bear with me for one moment.
That's fine.
Peter, you should now be presenter again.
Thank you very much, Peter. That was really excellent. Thank you for that presentation. And it really shows you don't have to be some analytical wizard to use the applications we've shown you. Some very advanced capabilities there, showing you being able to not only see your workforce now, but also predict some of the changes that might be happening and identifying those top leaders for the future, as well as those talent that you want to develop and retain today. So with that, with a combination of what we presented today, which I believe is a really compelling case to look again at staff retention strategies across the retail sector, meet some of the challenges that omni-channel retailing is going to be presenting to you, and getting the hard numbers of testing something that is going to work and showing the impact of that on the bottom line. So I hope you've enjoyed today. We've certainly enjoyed presenting to you today, and the call to action really is, if you want to take this any further, then we will send out an information pack with all the slides. In that is an opportunity to use our staff turnover calculator to do an initial business case, and any attendee to the workshop will get an offer of a free workshop for us to, any attendee to the seminar will get an offer of a free workshop where we can come and look at your staff development strategies and help you. We'll open the lines up to any questions and answers. I've got one question that's come through while we've been talking, and but the main one that came through here was really about getting started. So we did touch on that a little bit. The difficulty is obviously trying to choose the right strategy and making sure that you spend your money wisely. So One of the key things that we're working with retail clients are at the moment is particularly looking at their management development. So maybe a smaller cohort to start with, but looking at the key skills and behaviours and capabilities they need to lead in the digital world going forward. And then, of course, the other end of the spectrum is then looking at onboarding, particularly at the moment because it's it is starting our run up to Christmas, and many retailers are starting to expand their workforce. So how do you bring in that new cohort of sales assistants at this time of year? So there's a couple of initiatives there, but it's hard to be general. We have to really work with you specifically about your priorities, but hopefully that gives you some ideas. Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much for listening, and look forward to talking to you in the future. Right, goodbye.